Working with despair and emptiness. I was in the Osho scene deeply for some 2 decades, and there are a lot of things I'm grateful for from this time. The friendships especially stand out for me. Osho, the Indian mystic who passed away in 1990, created a huge scene around him of brave-hearted individuals who wanted to look inside or to get more from life. Also, it must be said, of people who also wanted to have more sex. And I'm grateful for the people I met, many of whom I'm still close with. But aside from the friendships, I'm also grateful to Osho for the idea that at the core of our world exists nothingness, and that our sense of personal selfhood arises from this emptiness. Of course, this is hardly a new idea, and most Buddhists, for example, will be totally familiar with it. Each of us exists in a relationship to the emptiness that is at the core of our being. And for many of us, that is not an easy relationship. Emptiness is by no means the ideal partner for our sense of personal selfhood. At certain times of the day, usually around 4 p.m, I often notice myself in some anxiety. It's like I'm being pulled into a certain inner state and I'm in resistance. I experience a compulsion to do something, to change how I am in that moment. I don't want to be pulled into this inner state. This to me is the classic anxiety around emptiness that I suspect many of us experience. I think that for a long while I was not aware of this dynamic within my daily life. I would just find something to do or maybe something to eat at this time. It was a habit. Nowadays, when I'm mostly working mornings and free in the afternoons, I'm becoming more aware of it. There is a way that we can work with this type of anxiety when we become aware that we have it, when we regularly notice a subtle desire not to be how we are at any given moment. We can surrender to it. Now, talking about surrendering to an underlying state sounds like a proactive kind of thing to do. I can imagine myself saying, okay, now I want to face the emptiness inside of me, like I'm taking on some kind of mythical beast. But surrender is not so proactive, I think. Just how do we let go into some inner state that we are avoiding? Body-based therapy has the answer. I simply sit down and feel my body, nothing more. In a relaxed manner, I try to put as much of my attention as I can on the sense of my body, just deeply feeling it. I don't try to feel the emptiness. I don't use my mind in any way. I just try to rest in the sense of my body. This is such a simple technique, but over time I have found that it has two benefits. Firstly, as all sensations and human emotions are processed by simply feeling the body, and avoiding feeling the body is how we repress, it allows us to process whatever is going on inside of us. Secondly, we send a message to our psyche that we are no longer afraid of our inner world. We are ready to process and be with whatever we are carrying around inside. When I consider common mental health conditions like anxiety or depression, I think that in the final analysis, both are, at their core, a reaction to a sense of deep emptiness that each of us inevitably carries around. Our whole way of being as Westerners is to avoid feeling empty. We learn to fill our lives with experiences, food, friendships, possessions, whatever. And I don't think, for the most part, this is necessarily problematic. But when we are trying to fill a hole that we actually need to feel, then we are in avoidance. And at some point we will become addicted to that strategy, whatever it might be. Yet there is an issue with using the sense of the body to process our past and to come to accept and enjoy an inner sense of emptiness. Even with the best will in the world, it is not always easy to sufficiently feel our body to process the past. This is because over time, our body fascia has either become hardened and armoured or has lost all natural toning. This is where body-based therapy techniques like bioenergetics or Reichian work come in. They progressively open up the body fascia such that we can have a deeper experience of a sense of our body. We begin to get such pleasure from simply feeling our body that we no longer need dopamine-creating mental behaviours. This diminishing need to do something releases us from our fear of being empty or being alone. We can rest in a deeper sense of presence and accept ourselves whether we are actively being someone in that moment or not. Thank you.